Most of us were raised on a very specific set of instructions. Go to school, get good grades, find a secure job, and work hard. We're told that this is the path to safety and success. But have you ever stopped to wonder why so many people follow that advice perfectly, yet still find themselves living paycheck to paycheck? They work harder and harder, yet the bills keep growing. They get a raise, and suddenly they need a bigger car or a more expensive house. This is what many call the rat race, a never-ending cycle of working for money just to pay for privilege of working some more. Today, we're going to break that cycle. We're going to explore a completely different way of looking at the world, a mindset that the wealthy use to build empires while everyone else is just trying to survive. We'll talk about the fundamental difference between an asset and a liability, why your house might actually be your biggest expense instead of an investment, and how you can start making money work for you, instead of you working for money.by the end of this video. You'll have a roadmap for financial intelligence that they never taught you in school. This isn't just about getting rich quick. It's about a fundamental shift in how you think about every dollar that passes through your hands. If you're ready to stop trading your time for a paycheck and start building true freedom, hit that subscribe button right now. We're diving deep into the strategies that will change how you think about money forever. Section 1. 2 paths, 1 choice, expanded. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a crossroads and you have 2 different guides pointing you in opposite directions. This isn't just a metaphor. It's the reality many of us face without even realizing it. On one path, you have the traditional, well-trodden route. This is the path of the academic success. Imagine a man who is highly brilliant, perhaps holding a PhD and multiple prestigious degrees. He spent his entire life mastering the system, believing that if you study hard enough and climb the corporate ladder, you'll find safety. He views a high-paying job, a stable salary, and government-backed benefits as the ultimate trophies of a life well lived. Yet, despite his intellect and his tireless work ethic, there is a hidden tension. At the end of every month, he is still staring at a mountain of bills, living just 1 paycheck away from a total financial collapse. He is successful by society standards, but he is a slave to clock. Now look at the second path. Here stands someone who, on paper, seems far less qualified. He didn't finish middle school, let alone university. He doesn't have a wall full of diplomas, but he possesses a different kind of vision, a financial sight that the academic world almost completely ignores. He doesn't look at a job. He looks at the mechanics of how money actually flows through the world. While the first man focuses on how to earn money, this man focuses on how money can be harnessed. These 2 paths are built on 2 fundamentally different belief systems that dictate every decision you make. One guide will tell you that the love of money is the root of all evil, teaching you to be suspicious of wealth and prioritize security above all else. The other guide will look you in the eye and say that the lack of money is the root of all evil because it breeds desperation, limits your potential, and traps you in a life you didn't choose. One will coach you on how to polish your resume, using fancy words to convince a big company to hire you. The other will push you to master the art of the business plan, showing you how to build or buy the company that everyone else is trying to work for. The harsh truth that most people never face is that they aren't working for a dream. They are trapped by 2 powerful emotions, fear and greed. First, the fear of not having enough money kicks them out of bed every morning. It drives them to work harder, to stay longer, and to tolerate jobs they may even hate. But then, as soon as that paycheck hits the bank account, a second emotion takes over, greed, or more accurately, desire. They see the new car, the bigger TV, the more expensive lifestyle, and they spend that hard-earned money to get a temporary hit of happiness. This creates a vicious, never-ending cycle known as the rat race. Wake up, go to work, pay the bills, and repeat. Most people think more money will solve the problem, but a raise only leads to more spending, which requires more work. It's a sophisticated trap designed for those who don't understand the game. To break out of this cage, you have to undergo a total mindset shift. You must realize that money in its physical form is just a tool, a form of power. But as powerful as money is, financial education is infinitely more potent. Money can be lost in a market crash or taken by a bad investment. But if you understand the underlying mechanics of how wealth is created, managed, and multiplied, You gain ultimate power over your life. You stop being a servant to the dollar and start becoming its master. Section 2. The only rule you need to know expanded. If your goal is to achieve true wealth and lasting financial independence, there's really only one fundamental rule you need to master. It is the absolute cornerstone of everything we're talking about today. If you get this one thing right, the rest of your financial journey becomes a matter of time and discipline. However, if you get this wrong, you could earn $1 million a year and still end up broke. That rule is this. You must know the absolute functional difference between an asset and a liability, and you must dedicate your life to buying assets. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds almost too simple to be true, right? You might be wondering why, if it's so simple, everyone isn't already wealthy. The reason is that most people have been taught a definition of these words that is fundamentally flawed. In our traditional education and in common social circles, we are led to believe that anything with a high price tag or a prestigious brand is an asset. We buy things we think are building our net worth. But in reality, those very things are the heavy anchors dragging us down and draining our bank accounts every single month. People are essentially decorating their financial cages with expensive things without realizing they are still in a cage. Let's strip away all the complex accounting jargon and define these terms in the simplest way possible, the way the wealthy actually see them. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It is a tool that works for you, generating cash flow regardless of whether you are sitting at your desk or sleeping in your bed. A liability, on the other hand, is something that takes money out of your pocket. It is a commitment that requires you to keep working and keep earning just to cover its costs. Think about that for a second and apply it to your daily life. If you decide to buy a rental property, and after you pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and the repairs, it still generates a $500 profit for you every single month. That is a true asset. It is a money machine that adds to your freedom. But contrast that with the brand new luxury car that so many people rush to buy the moment they get a promotion or a bonus. That car requires a massive monthly payment, expensive insurance, premium fuel, and constant maintenance. It is a liability in its purest form. It doesn't pay you. You pay for the privilege of owning it, and its value drops the moment you drive it home. The defining characteristic of the wealthy is their relentless, almost obsessive focus on building their asset column. They spend their time and resources acquiring stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, or intellectual property, things that have the potential to grow in value and, more importantly, produce cash. The poor and the middle class, however, have a completely different focus. They focus almost exclusively on their income from a job. They work incredibly hard for a paycheck, but as soon as that money arrives, it flows right back out through the expense column to pay for a lifestyle filled with liabilities that they've mistakenly labeled as investments. They are essentially running on a financial treadmill. The harder they work and the more they earn, the more liabilities they acquire, which in turn means they can never actually afford to stop running. To break this cycle and truly change your life, you have to change what you are buying. You have to stop collecting stuff that makes you look rich and start collecting the assets that will actually make you rich. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep and how hard that money works for you. Section 3. The House Trap. This is arguably the most controversial topic we will cover today. And for many, it's where things get uncomfortable. For generations, we've been conditioned to believe that our home is not just a place to live, but our greatest financial achievement, our primary investment. It's the dream we are all told to chase from the moment we enter the workforce. But if we apply the simple, hard-hitting definition we just established, that an asset must put money into your pocket, we have to ask a difficult question. Is your primary residence actually an asset? When you look at the cold, hard numbers, the answer for most people is a resounding no. For the vast majority of homeowners, a house is actually their largest and most persistent liability. Think about the flow of cash. Every single month, without fail, that house is pulling money out of your pocket. You have the mortgage payment, which for the first several years is almost entirely interest that goes straight to the bank. Then you have property taxes, which you must pay forever even after the house is paid off. Add in homeowners insurance, utilities, and inevitable, never-ending list of repairs and maintenance. Instead of working for you, you are working for the house. When you tie up a majority of your net worth and your monthly income in a home that is too expensive for your actual needs, you aren't just paying for a roof over your head. You're facing three massive hidden losses that can derail your financial future for decades. First, there is a loss of time. When your capital is locked away in the equity of your home, that money is stagnant. It isn't out in the world multiplying. If you spend 30 years paying off a massive mortgage, you have lost 3 decades of compounding interest. While you were busy paying down a liability, you could have been using that same money to acquire assets that grow exponentially. In the world of wealth, time is your most precious resource, and a high-priced home is a massive time thief. Second, you face the loss of additional capital. Most people don't realize that by the time they finish a 30-year mortgage, they have often paid the bank 2 or even 3 times the original price of the house in interest alone. That is money that could have been invested in stocks, businesses, or income-producing real estate. Furthermore, the money spent on upkeep, the new roof, the landscaping, the kitchen remodel, is capital that is diverted away from your asset column and into a structure that often only maintains its value relative to inflation. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there is the loss of financial education. This is the most dangerous trap of all. Because most people put every spare dollar they have into their home, they never have enough left over to actually start investing. They stay safe in their suburban comfort zone. As a result, they never gain the experience, the market tuition, or the sophistication required to become truly successful investors. They don't learn how to read financial statements or analyze deals because their only investment strategy is hoping their home value goes up over time. That isn't a strategy, it's a gamble. Now, let's be clear. We aren't saying you shouldn't buy a house or enjoy a beautiful home. What we are saying is that you must understand what it actually is on your balance sheet. The secret used by the wealthy is a matter of sequencing. Instead of buying the big house first and spending 30 years trying to pay for it, they focus on building their asset column first. They buy the businesses and the rental properties that generate consistent monthly cash flow. Then and only then, they use that passive income to pay for the house of their dreams. This way, the assets pay for the lifestyle rather than their hard-earned labor paying for liability. Section 4. Minding your own business. One of the most profound secrets to long-term wealth lies in understanding a distinction that almost no one talks about. It is the massive, life-altering difference between your profession and your business. Most people go through their entire lives confusing these two concepts, and that confusion is exactly why they stay stuck in the middle class. They focus all their energy on their profession while completely neglecting their business, never realizing that they are two entirely different animals. Let's break this down. Your profession is what you do for 40, 50, or 60 hours a week to earn the money required to pay your bills. It is your craft, your trade, or your title. You might be a highly skilled surgeon, a brilliant programmer, a dedicated teacher, or a corporate executive. That is your profession. But here's the hard truth. Your profession is essentially your labor. You are trading your most valuable asset, your time, for a fixed amount of currency. Your business, on the other hand, is something completely different. Your business is your asset column. While your profession generates income today, your business is what builds wealth for tomorrow. The tragedy of the modern world is that our school systems are designed specifically to train you to become what you study. If you study accounting, you become an accountant. If you study law, you become an attorney. While there is nothing wrong with being a professional, the problem arises when you become so focused on your profession that you forget to mind your own business. You spend your life working to make your employer rich, working to pay the government its share in taxes, and working to pay the bank its interest. By the time you're done taking care of everyone else, your own asset column is left empty and starving. To become truly financially secure, you must undergo a shift in priority. You need to start putting as much, if not more, thought into your business as you do your job. This doesn't mean you should go out and quit your day job tomorrow morning. In fact, for most people, the smartest move is to keep your profession for now. Let your job be the engine that provides the initial capital. But instead of taking that paycheck and spending it on better clothes or a faster car, you must use it to start acquiring real, tangible assets. These don't have to be massive investments right away. You start small, one brick at a time. It might be a handful of shares in a growing company, a small piece of a private business, or your first modest rental property. The key is that these things belong to you. They are pieces of the world that you own, and they work for you even when you aren't at your profession. You are building a foundation that is independent of your boss, your company, or the economy. The ultimate goal of minding your own business is to reach a specific tipping point. This is the point where the monthly income generated by your assets, your dividends, your rents, your royalties, becomes equal to or greater than your monthly living expenses. When you reach that milestone, everything changes. You are no longer working for money. You are technically wealthy. You have achieved a level of freedom where you could choose to never work another day in your profession, and you would still survive and thrive indefinitely. That is the power of minding your own business. It is the transition from being an employee of the world to being the owner of your own financial destiny. Section 5. The 4 pillars of financial intelligence. If you have dreams of building a massive financial empire, a life defined by true independence where you never have to worry about a bill again, you must start with the foundation. You simply cannot build a skyscraper on a 6-inch slab of concrete. Many people try to skip the basics and jump straight to the big money or the flashy investments. But without a solid base, the first economic wind or market correction will knock their house down. That foundation is what we call your financial IQ. It is a core of your wealth-building capacity, and it is composed of 4 essential pillars that you must master if you want to play the game of money at a high level. The first pillar is accounting. Now, I know the very word accounting makes many people want to tune out. They think of boring spreadsheets, tax forms, and complex math. But in reality, accounting in the context of wealth is simply the ability to read and understand numbers. It is a language of money. If you want to be rich, you must be able to read the story that numbers are telling you. Every financial statement is a narrative of someone's choices. If you look at a balance sheet and cannot immediately tell the difference between a true cash-generating asset and a dangerous cash-draining liability, you are essentially flying a plane without an instrument panel. You have no idea if you're climbing toward prosperity or crashing toward debt until it's far too late. Mastering this pillar allows you to identify the health of any business or investment at a single glance. The second pillar is investing. This is often referred to as the science of money making money. While accounting helps you see exactly where you are today, investing teaches you where you can go tomorrow. It involves the strategies, the formulas, and the creative use of capital that separate the amateurs from professionals. Investing isn't just about picking a good stock or following a hot tip. It's about understanding the deep mechanics of risk and reward. It's about knowing how to find hidden deals that others miss and how to structure those deals so that every dollar you own is working as hard as possible for you. This is the creative side of wealth, where you learn to see opportunities in places where everyone else only sees obstacles or too much risk. The third pillar is understanding markets. You can have the most brilliant investment strategy in the world, but if the market doesn't want what you're offering, you will fail. This pillar requires you to understand the fundamental laws of supply and demand. But beyond just the numbers, it's about understanding the psychology of the crowd. Is there a technical or fundamental reason for an investment to grow, or is it just being driven by hype? Is the market currently greedy or fearful? You need to be able to look at the world and recognize whether a specific investment makes sense in the current economic climate. This market sense is what allows the wealthy to buy when others are panic selling, and to sell when everyone else is rushing in at the peak. It is about being in sync with the global economy. The fourth and perhaps most powerful pillar is the law. The wealthy don't just work hard. They work smart within the legal and tax frameworks provided to them. They use corporations and various legal entities to protect their assets from lawsuits and, most importantly, to minimize their tax burden. This is where the playing field becomes truly uneven for those who don't have this knowledge. Think about the massive, systemic difference in how money is treated between an individual and a business entity. If you are a standard employee, you earn your money. The government takes its tax cut immediately before you even see the cash, and then you try to live your life on whatever is left. However, if you operate through a corporation, the script is entirely flipped. A corporation earns its money, spends as much as it can on legitimate business expenses, which can include things like travel, equipment, insurance, and professional training, and then it is only taxed on whatever profit remains at the very end. This is one of the biggest legal loopholes in existence, and it is the primary engine the wealthy use to grow their net worth at a speed that an average employee could never hope to match. By mastering these four pillars, you don't just learn how to make money. You learn how to protect it, how to grow it, and how to keep it from being drained away by taxes and bad decisions. Section 6. The rich invent money. In the real world, we often witness a strange and frustrating phenomenon. Brilliant people with top-tier degrees and incredible work ethics who still find themselves struggling to make ends meet. Why is that? It's because in the actual arena of life, it isn't always the smart who get ahead, it is the bold. It is those who have the courage to take calculated risks and step into the unknown. Most people are held back by a paralyzing fear of being wrong or failing, but those who build true wealth understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a mandatory part of the process of inventing it. The average person is taught a very narrow and limited set of solutions when it comes to money. They are conditioned to believe that if they want to increase their wealth, they simply have to work more hours, save more aggressively, or borrow more from a bank. This is a linear, exhausting way to live. Those who have mastered financial intelligence, however, realize that their mind is the single most powerful asset they possess. If you train your brain to see what others miss, you can literally create wealth seemingly out of thin air. In the information age, wealth is not just gold or paper currency. It is the result of a well-executed idea. Think of financial intelligence as having a massive toolbox full of options. When a crisis hits or a unique opportunity presents itself, the average person says, "I can't afford that." That is a dead-end statement that shuts down the brain's creative potential. But the person with a high financial IQ asks, "How can I afford that?" They look for ways to make the deal happen without necessarily using their own capital. For instance, imagine you find a piece of real estate or a business opportunity that is significantly undervalued, but you don't have the cash in your bank account to buy it. Instead of giving up, you could tie up the deal with a legal contract or an option to buy. You then take that deal to an investor who has the cash but lacks the time or the skill to find such a great opportunity. By bringing the two together, you earn a fee or a piece of the equity. You just created money through an agreement, technical knowledge, and a bit of initiative. You didn't need a large bank account. You needed the intelligence to see the gap and the boldness to bridge it. People often look at the wealthy and claim they just got lucky. But the truth is that luck is manufactured just as much as money is. If you spend your entire life waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for every traffic light to turn green before you even start your car, you will never leave your driveway. The world is overflowing with opportunities, but they are often invisible to the untrained eye. The people who get ahead are those who have trained themselves to look for value where others see nothing. They don't wait for luck to strike. They create the conditions where luck has no choice but to happen. They understand that while the smart are still analyzing the risks, the bold have already seized the moment. Section 7. Work to learn. Don't work for money. There's an old saying that perfectly captures the trap most people fall into. Job stands for just over broke. It's a harsh phrase, but it reflects a reality many live every day. A job can easily become a comfort zone that pays the bills, but slowly limits your growth if you're not intentional about what you gain from it beyond money. When you look for a job, don't focus only on the salary, the benefits, or the job title. Those things matter in the short term, but they rarely change your long-term financial future. Instead, ask a deeper question. What will this job teach me? In the long run, skills and experience compound far more powerfully than a paycheck. Money is spent once, but education, real-world education, keeps paying you for life. To succeed financially, you cannot afford to be good at only one thing. You need to become a modern polymath, someone who understands a little about many essential areas. This doesn't mean mastering everything, but it does mean learning the fundamentals of sales, marketing, communication, negotiation, and leadership. These are universal skills that follow you into every industry, and every business you may one day build. Many highly talented people remain financially stuck not because they lack ability, but because they focus exclusively on their technical craft. They spend years perfecting what they do, while completely ignoring how value is created, sold, and scaled. They are excellent cooks, but they never learn how to run a restaurant. Without business skills, even the most talented individuals end up working for those who understand money, systems, and people. This is why choosing the right job is a strategic decision, not just a financial one. Take work that challenges you, stretches you, and exposes your weaknesses. Learn how money flows through a business. Learn how systems are built, how teams are managed, and how decisions are made under pressure. These lessons may not show up immediately in your bank account, but they quietly prepare you for something much bigger. Over time, these skills give you options. They give you leverage. And eventually, they give you the ability to step out of the rat race entirely and build something of your own, something that works for you instead of the other way around. Section 8. Overcoming the obstacles. Even with financial knowledge and the right strategies, many people still fail to achieve financial freedom. The reason is rarely a lack of intelligence. Instead, it comes down to a small set of internal obstacles that quietly sabotage progress. The most common of these are fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. These obstacles don't look dangerous at first, but over time, they become invisible walls that stop people from moving forward. Fear of losing money is real, and it affects everyone, beginners and experienced investors alike. The problem isn't fear itself. Fear can be useful if it makes you cautious and thoughtful. The real danger lies in letting fear control every decision. Most people play the game so safe that they never actually take a meaningful step. They protect themselves so carefully from loss that they also eliminate any real chance of gain. In trying not to lose, they guarantee that they never win. Cynicism is a quiet voice of doubt that constantly asks, what if something goes wrong? What if the market crashes? What if the business fails? What if I can't pay it back? While these questions sound intelligent, they often mask indecision. Cynics focus on everything that could go wrong and use that as an excuse to do nothing. Winners, on the other hand, don't ignore risks. They analyze them. They prepare, adjust, and move forward anyway. Laziness is another obstacle, but it rarely looks like doing nothing. More often, it disguises itself as being too busy. People stay overwhelmed with work, meetings, and daily routines, so they don't have to face the uncomfortable responsibility of managing their own money and future. Being busy feels productive, but it can also be a way to avoid growth. The antidote to this kind of laziness is a small amount of healthy self-interest. Asking yourself what your life could look like if you actually took control and succeeded. Bad habits and arrogance complete the cycle. Habits shape daily behavior, and without discipline, even good intentions fail. Arrogance prevents learning. It convinces people they already know enough and don't need advice or correction. Together, these traits quietly keep people stuck exactly where they are. To overcome all of these obstacles, you need a powerful why. You need a reason that is bigger than your fear, stronger than your doubts, and more compelling than comfort. When your purpose is clear, obstacles don't disappear, but they lose their power over you. Section 9. How to start today. If you're ready to take the first step, understand that change does not begin with money. It begins with decision. The moment you decide to take control of your financial future, you shift from passive observation to active participation. But intention alone is not enough. You need a foundation strong enough to carry you through doubt, discomfort, and inevitable setbacks. The first thing you must find is a reason greater than your current reality. Surface-level motivation fades quickly when things get difficult. You need a deep, personal why, something emotional enough to pull you forward when logic tells it stop. Whether it's freedom, security, dignity, or the desire to live life on your own terms, this reason must be stronger than fear. Without it, every obstacle will feel like a valid excuse to quit. Next, choose your friends and influences wisely. This doesn't mean surrounding yourself only with wealthy or successful people. It means being conscious of the voices you allow into your mind. Be careful of the chicken littles, those who constantly warn you that the sky is falling, that the system is rigged, and that nothing ever works. Their fear often disguises itself as concern. Listen respectfully, but don't let their limitations become your own. Then focus on mastering one formula before chasing many. Financial growth is not about doing everything at once. It's about depth before breadth. Learn how to invest in one area. Understand it fully, make mistakes, adjust, and gain confidence. Once you master one approach, moving to the next becomes far easier. Progress accelerates when you build on solid foundations instead of scattered efforts. One of the most powerful habits you can adopt is paying yourself first. Even when money feels tight, especially when it feels tight, prioritize your asset column. This creates constructive pressure. When your money is committed to building assets, your mind is forced to become more creative. You begin to find solutions, side opportunities, and efficiencies you would never have discovered otherwise. Pressure, when applied correctly, sharpens focus instead of breaking it. Finally, learn to value expertise. Pay your professionals well. A skilled broker, a knowledgeable accountant, or a sharp attorney is not an expense. They are an investment. The right advisors don't just protect your money, they help you grow it, structure it, and keep it working efficiently. Trying to save money by avoiding professionals often costs far more in the long run. Starting today doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment awareness and the willingness to act before you feel completely ready. Momentum is built through action, and action is what separates those who think about change from those who actually create it. Financial freedom isn't destination. It's a way of thinking. It's the realization that you have the power to choose your future every time you receive a dollar. You can choose to be poor by spending it on junk. You can choose to be middle class by buying liabilities. Or you can choose to be wealthy by investing in your mind and your asset column. The choice is yours. Start small, keep learning, and never stop minding your own business. If this video helped you see the world a little differently, please give a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the mindsets and strategies of the world's most successful people. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.